Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be going over Reddit's most infamous threads. I'm sure many of you have heard almost if not all of these already, but I hope you can either get I'd call it a refresher and revisit these terrible threads, or learn the ones that most know already. If you guys want to submit your own stories or confessions, please send them to me at dumbarcusyoutube@gmail.com. Besides that, let's get into today's video. And for our first one, it is going to be one of the most famous threads. And the title of it is, I stood by and allowed my wife to almost off our son. I was happy she did it. Okay, fair warning. This one is long as hell. Apologies for that. But this is very hard for me, and I have been carrying it for a lot of years. On the advice of my therapist, I've written it all out to try to work out my feelings on it. He didn't advise me to submit it to Reddit, of course, but I have struggled with this for a long time, and I need to hear other people's opinion on it. I still really have no idea how I feel about it, even after all these years. But I will submit for judgment by the masses. I know I did wrong on some things, probably a lot of things. I tried to do my best that I could. My son was very troubled, very troubled. If you have seen the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin, it will really help to understand what I'm talking about. Because I swear to God, when I watched that film, I thought I was watching a documentary of my life. I felt like the writer must have had cameras hidden in my damn house. That's how accurate it was. The only difference is that in the movie, the boy appears normal to his father and only reveals his true nature to his mother. With my son, he didn't have that mask. His insane behavior was the same with everyone. From the day he was born, my son just came out wrong. He was planned. My wife and I tried to get pregnant, and we were ecstatic when he was born. He was wanted and loved. We showered affection on him and really tried to give him a happy childhood. But from the day we brought him home from the hospital, he was miserable. He cried for 13 months straight. I'm not exaggerating. 13 months without a break. He cried until he had no voice left and kept crying. You could see his little face scrunched up and no sound coming out. Totally hoarse. There were times he would literally be crying in his sleep. I've never seen or heard of any other kid able to do that. We brought him to doctors, specialists, tried changing his diet, held him, rocked him, toys, swaddling, music, mobiles, everything we could think of. Nothing worked. 13 months of grating, grinding, no sleep hell. Once he got over the crying stage, we thought we were out of the woods. But it quickly became clear that for some unknown reason, he was just angry at being alive. I never saw that kid have a genuine, joyous smile once in the time I knew him. I saw him grin a vicious, horrible grin many times, taking a perverse pleasure from causing pain or suffering, or breaking a rule. But a smile from real pleasure at something nice? No, never. Not once. He had no interest in anything positive. He was fueled by hate, and everything he did was bent toward that. As soon as he could walk, his mission in life was to destroy things. He would break or try to break anything that came in his range. Smash it, chew it, throw it in the toilet, whatever he could. After a while, he figured out how to get his diaper off and took great pleasure in shitting and pissing anywhere he could. After a while, he figured out he could hide it and started pissing and shitting in places we couldn't find right away, grinding it into carpets, making it more of a problem to clean, and making the house stink. When he got older, ages 9 to 15, he would piss and shit in our bed until we got a lock on our door and he wasn't able to get in anymore. Then he'd just take a dump in the hallway in front of our room. That biological warfare started around 2.5 years old, and he never grew out of it. I'll try to speed it up, as I could literally go on for days about this stuff. But as he grew older, he became more and more unmanageable. He would bite, kick, scream, scratch and spit at anyone trying to do anything with him. He was kicked out of school twice before he was 9, then let him back in, and then kicked him out for good. He had to change schools. The next one put him in a special class that kept him away from the other students. We had to install a door and lock on the kitchen because he would steal knives and use them to gouge the walls or furniture or chase people with them. When he was 10, he stabbed me pretty good in the hip and ass. I still have the scars. As he grew older, he grew darker. He moved into setting things on fire and torturing local animals. There was a stray dog that hung out around the park near our house. My son blinded it in one eye with a barbecue fork. He would dip cats' tails in gasoline and light them on fire. He became a violent, stinking, vicious beast that lived in our house. We couldn't do anything with him. I will take this opportunity to preempt the tsunami of messages. Yes, we had the kid in effing therapy. He saw a psychiatrist twice a week and had God knows how many different medications prescribed to him over the years. Nothing worked. Therapy didn't work. Meds didn't work. Nothing effing worked. He was like a poison cloud of hate and fury lashing out at anything in his reach. When my son was 16, my wife got pregnant again. I can't tell you how different our reaction was. Instead of joy, we felt horror. This pregnancy had not been planned, and we were really at a loss over what to do. My son had been such an unending nightmare for 16 years. We couldn't take the idea of starting again from the beginning. We talked a lot about terminating, but A, access to abortion was not as easy in those days as it is now, and B, my wife was very against it. We talked about many options. In the end, we decided that my wife would have the baby, and if it turned out evil, we would put it up for adoption. We knew we just couldn't do it again with another child like our son. We had a daughter. She was normal. Suddenly, we saw what our lives should have been like the whole time. How things would have been had our son not been himself. She laughed at things. She breastfed without biting. She didn't have teeth anyway, but you could tell she was just trying to eat, not tear her mom's breast off. After 4 months, she was sleeping through the night. She was happy. She was normal. I can't describe the relief and happiness that we both felt. I don't have the words for it. This is where I believe I may have started really pulling back from my son. Up until that time, whatever mistakes I made, I had always tried to do the best for my son. I am convinced of that. I tried to help him and love him and care for him. I really tried. But when my daughter was born, my wife and I both instinctively just turned toward her. She became our focus. Not from malice, but just because she was so much easier. She was so happy and sweet. Every moment we were with her was like magic. I understand this was wrong, but we honestly couldn't help it. I don't have a better explanation than that. My son hadn't given a shit about my wife being pregnant. I honestly don't know if he really understood it. But when we brought our daughter home, he started acting out even more. I didn't think it was possible, but he took it up another notch. At this time, he was 17, and we were having blowout screaming matches daily. Usually after we fought, he would storm out of the house and disappear for hours at a time, or come back the next morning. It was a relief. I started to actually look forward to our fights because it would get him away from us for a while. After the birth of our daughter, my relationship with my son was almost entirely gone. Our only real interactions were screaming at each other. My wife was even worse with him. She just had nothing left. By that time, if our son even came into the same room as her, she would just stop whatever she was doing and start screaming, "Get the F away from me! Get away! Get the F out!" until he left. He started spending more and more time out of the house, which was a blessing for us. I have no idea what he got up to out in the world, but we were just happy it wasn't being inflicted on us. As a consequence of our son's behavior, we had invested heavily in locks around our house. All of the cheap, thin interior doors in our home had been replaced with thick, dense wood doors that couldn't be kicked through, equipped with keyed locks that my wife and I carried keys to. I know it sounds extreme, but locks and heavy doors were the best way we had found to create safe spaces from him. And again, before I am inundated with messages, I was not locking my son in rooms like a prisoner. He had free reign of the house and could come and go as he pleased. My wife and I would lock ourselves in rooms to protect ourselves from him. If anything, we were the prisoners in our own home. On the day in question, I had fought with my son in the morning, and he had left the house in a rage. My wife and I were enjoying some peace and quiet in the kitchen while our daughter napped in our bedroom. And then my daughter began crying. Any parent who has young children can tell you, you get used to your child's cries, and you could tell after a while what they need. They cry differently if they are hungry, or need changing, or are just restless and want to be held. Babies can communicate pretty well before they can speak. This cry was none of those things. This cry was terror. The second we heard it, my wife and I were both out of our chairs running to the room. The door was locked, of course, and it took a few seconds to get the right key and get it open. My son was in the room. We lived in a bungalow, and the bastard had climbed in the window to get to her. He was standing over her crib with a steak knife in his hand. I have no idea where he got it. It wasn't one of ours. We controlled our knives very carefully and always kept them in locked drawers. I think he may have stolen it from one of our neighbors' houses. He had broken her skin twice already, once in the belly area and once on her arm. I could see blood running down. When I entered the room, he was dragging the back of the knife down her face, not cutting, almost tickling her with it, teasing her while she screamed. He looked up at us and smiled. Before I knew what I was doing, I was already moving, running to put myself between them. I didn't think about it. I just moved instinctively. Even with that, my wife got there faster. It was like a movie on fast forward. She got to our son and bashed his hand away, knocking the knife across the room, and then shoved him with her whole body weight, so hard that he flew away from the crib and bounced off the wall. I picked up my daughter and held her while my wife screened us. I could see her shaking, almost convulsing. I can remember the smell of the room, the sound of my daughter screaming and wailing, the look on my son's face as he stood there. Just nothing. Blank. Dead. There was nothing in his eyes. No emotion. He looked like an alien to me. I watched my wife take a step toward him. I could have reached out and stopped her, but I didn't. She stepped forward again, very close to him. I could have stopped her again, but I didn't. She waited, looking at him for maybe 3 to 5 seconds without moving. And then she punched him in the face. Now, until this point, you may have been picturing my wife as a typical woman, small frame, dainty, delicate. This is not the case. My wife does have a small frame, but dainty and delicate she is not. Never has been since I've known her. Since her early teens, my wife has been a boxer. MMA didn't exist back then, but karate and boxing were big in those days, and my wife was a very talented amateur. She was about 130 pounds. She carried a lot of muscle, and she knew how to punch. I had 70 pounds on her back then, and I have no doubt that in a real fight between me and her, she could have and would have pounded me flat. Neither of us have ever laid a hand on our son in anger before, but something broke in her that day, and all the years of anger and pain and sorrow and frustration just came pouring out. When she hit him, his head snapped back and blood started pouring out of his nose. He hardly reacted. He just looked at her with this shocked expression, like he didn't know how to process what had just happened. She waited another second, and then she hit him again. I could have reached out and stopped her. I could have dragged her out of the room, taken her away, calmed her. I didn't. I just stood there and watched while she systematically started to pound him to a pulp. Every time he brought his hands to cover one part, she would blast him somewhere else. Body, head, over and over. He started screaming, crying out, yelling for her to stop. It's the most genuine reaction I'd ever seen him have to anything in his whole life. But she wasn't stopping. I watched her ramping up, hitting harder, faster, working him like a heavy bag. He tried to swing at her, and she slipped him easily. She was on autopilot, sinking down into her training. I stood there watching for a minute. Then I turned my back on them and took my daughter out of the room. I brought my daughter to the kitchen and gave her a bath in the sink. I found out that he had cut her a 3rd time on the sole of her foot. All the cuts were superficial. I cleaned her up and held her until she calmed. I put polysporin and band-aids on her cuts. In our bedroom, I could hear my son screaming, calling my wife horrible names, telling her he would cut her head off and F her corpse. Wow. After a while, I didn't hear him saying anything anymore. Didn't even hear him crying out. I assumed he must have been knocked out. But I could still hear her beating him. That went on for a long time. Long enough for my daughter to drift off to sleep in my arms. I just sat at the kitchen table waiting for her to finish. Finally, she came out, and sat down across from me. Her hands were swollen and red. Her face and arms were splattered with blood. Her chest was heaving. We just stared at each other without saying anything. After a while, I asked her, "Is he unalived?" She looked back at me and answered, "I effing hope so." I nodded. That was all there was to say about that. I understood how she felt perfectly. I felt the same. I didn't know what to do, so we just sat there waiting silently. Eventually, my wife started crying and went to go take a shower. I just stayed where I was holding our daughter. After a long while, I heard moaning and sobbing coming from our room. It turned out that my son wasn't unalived. I went in to see how bad it was, and it was pretty bad. I've never seen a more merciless beating laid onto anyone, before or since. He was lying on the floor, rolling around with blood leaking out of his face, lying in a pool of vomit. His nose was squashed flat out across his face. Both of his eyes were completely swollen shut and starting to blacken already. I could see that a couple of his fingers were bent out at weird angles, and he had pissed his pants. I think he must have been missing teeth, but I couldn't see any on the floor, and I couldn't see inside his mouth. His lips were all puffed up and swollen. From talking to my wife about it later, I know now that she had systematically beaten every part of his body, focusing heavily on his legs. She told me she had kicked him in the groin repeatedly until her legs got tired, and had kept beating his body long after he had passed out. When my wife came out of the shower, I still didn't know what to do about her son. I didn't know whether to call the police or an ambulance, take him to the hospital myself. I honestly didn't have any idea what to do. After a while, I realized I simply didn't care what happened to him anymore, and we decided to just let him live or pass away on his own. There was an in-law suite in the basement that we had never really used, and my wife, my daughter, and I just moved down there. We simply ceded the top floor of the house to my son and locked everything down, separated our lives entirely. There was plenty of food in the upstairs cabinets, enough for a couple weeks or more. He had a washroom and bedrooms to use. We had a washroom in the basement, a small kitchenette, and a separate entrance, so we just stopped going upstairs. We just decided we were done with him. I figured we'd let his food run out and see what happened. Over the next week, we could hear him moving around upstairs sometimes. I think he just spent most of his time lying in bed recovering. I went to work, watching on high alert in case he attacked me in the hallway, but he never did. My wife stayed home with our daughter. She was never out of our sight. One night, we heard him going ballistic, smashing things and banging. We didn't respond. He never tried to get downstairs or get near us, though. I think he was afraid that if he got near us again, my wife might finish the job on him. After 3 weeks down in the basement, we hadn't heard anything from up above for a few days, so I ventured upstairs to the main floor of the house. The place was demolished, and there was no sign of my son. He was gone. It took months to repair the damage he had done and get the main floor back to normal again. There was food and shit smeared all over the walls and broken glass on the floor, big holes in the drywall. He had ripped this place apart. He tore up the linoleum in a corner of the kitchen and emptied an entire foam fire extinguisher into the living room. I feel thankful that he didn't burn the house down with us in it. I'm honestly not sure why he didn't. The kid wasn't shy about lighting things on fire. After that, I lived in fear every day that he would come back, that he would ambush us out of the blue and try to unalive us. We moved houses about 3 years later, and I finally stopped being afraid that he would show up again, as now he had no idea where we were. I finally felt safe from him. All that happened a long time ago. My son was born in the spring in 1971, and my daughter was born in 1988. I'm an old man now. I'll be 70 this year, and my wife passed from cancer in 2016. My daughter is 31 now. I moved in with her and her husband after my wife passed. I've got 2 granddaughters, and they are the joy of my life. I see a therapist a couple times a month to talk about this. I don't know where my son is. The last time I saw him was when he was lying on the floor of our bedroom, bleeding and smashed. I haven't heard from him since he left. More than 30 years now. I don't want to. I carry a lot of guilt from that time and a lot of conflicted emotions. I didn't beat him myself, but I allowed him to be beaten, and I thought he deserved it. I was happy it happened. I didn't try to unalive him, but I would have been happy if he did. I will say that I do hope he was able to overcome his demons and go live a normal life somewhere. If he wasn't able to do that, if he stayed the way he was, then I truly do hope someone out there unalived him. When I knew him, he was a rabid dog. In whichever way it went, I just hope he still isn't out there hurting anyone else. But yeah, every time I read this thread, it never feels any less crazy than the previous time I've read it. But one thing I always think about is, how much of a saint the OP is. The amount of patience he had over everything destructive that his son did for, 17 years? It's crazy. I bet it cost so much, physically and emotionally. I just wish him the best for the rest of his life, and hopefully the post helped make things a little bit easier for him, like he was hoping for. But anyway, let's see what some people have to say about this. One commenter says, "Your wife was a badass and a hero. You guys are great parents. He was basically an adult when all of that happened, and you both protected your daughter. Don't feel shame or guilt. He deserved it. You are a good guy. Also, I'm glad your daughter got to grow up without the bastard around. And if you know his name, can't you search online through obituaries or jail records? Maybe it would bring you peace if you knew." And the OP replies to this saying, "She was absolutely a badass. She was the strongest, most beautiful woman I ever knew. I'll let her know you approve. Even though she's not with us anymore, I still speak to her often. I sure do know his name. I gave it to him, haha. It was my father's name. You're right. Maybe I could find some record of him, but I think I likely won't. I can't see what good it would bring into my life to know. Either I'll find he's passed away, which I don't feel anything about, or I'll find he's in jail for hurting someone, and I'll just spend the rest of my life regretting that I didn't finish the job while he was lying there at my feet. I thought at the time about putting a pillow over his face and ending him, but I chose not to. I'd hate to know that my choice caused some other poor soul to have to suffer his madness. Someone else says he is probably either unalived or in jail. From your description, there really wasn't anything else you could do. It sounds like he had some major mental imbalances, and you tried everything. I am surprised you didn't have him locked up in a psych ward. I am sorry you had to live through hell, and still are living it to some extent. One last person says, your wife is an effing hero. Any parent would have done the same. She was protecting her child from a murderer. The murderer's identity and relationship to you isn't important. Our next one's gonna be, I did heroin yesterday. I am not a drug user and have never done anything besides pot back when I was a teen. Ask me anything. This is a little long. I have never been a drug user. I drink once in a while and smoked pot years ago back when I was a teen in high school a few times, and that's it. I'm 24 now, have a master's, and a well-paying full-time job. Yesterday, I was walking through Washington Square Park, where I pass every day, and there are always people there looking to sell drugs. Not in the park anymore due to cameras, but it is well known you can meet a dealer there and then do the transaction elsewhere these days. They usually don't solicit drugs to you unless you stop to stand around near one of them for some reason, or look like you're looking for something. Yesterday, I happened to stop by a row of benches to check some messages on my phone when a dealer on the bench to my right asks me if I need anything. My life has been pretty boring these last few years, and I feel like I haven't really lived, taken any risks, or done anything crazy, so I figured, what the hell, maybe I'll buy some pot. It's been a while. I said yeah, and after asking me several times if I'm a cop, he gives me his number and tells me to meet him at a fast food place several blocks away, and he will hook me up. I say alright, and nervously check to make sure I have cash, and go to meet the shady-looking dude. We sit down, and after hounding me asking if I'm a cop, he asks what I need. I tell him I just want a dime bag, and he says something like, nah, sorry man, I only sell half ounces. You can take that, and I've got some Coke and H. At this point, I didn't want to buy half an ounce of pot. I probably never smoked more than an eighth in my life. But then I started considering his last word, heroin. I've heard so much about it, and how crazy addictive it is, and seen it in movies and TV. I'm thinking The Wire here, one of my favorite shows. And it really started to intrigue me. I've always wondered what it would be like to do heroin. Out of nowhere, I say I'll take the H, and we do the deal there. I give him the cash under the table, and he slides me a small order of fries with a little stamped wax baggie in it. Then he tells me to let him leave first. I put it in my pocket, then nervously race home, my heart racing, not believing what I just did. I held onto that bag in my pocket, palms sweating the whole ride home. When I get home, I open the bag and dump some golden flakes and powder on my glass coffee table. At this point, I don't even know what to do. I know you can snort heroin, but it looked all flaky. So I try to remember how they did it in the movies, but they always seem to inject it in film. So I start Googling how to snort heroin like an idiot and do a little research on the stuff and how much to take. I used a card to get it into fine powder and move a small bump to the side, which I inhaled through a dollar bill. I didn't feel anything yet, so I snorted a small line, which was essentially half the bag. There was very little inside. I waited, and in a few minutes, I had the most pleasurable feeling of pure relaxation and bliss wash over me. I just sat there, and everything felt amazing. I nodded off, and it was great. I had the TV on, but wasn't paying attention. I must have sat around for 4 hours, doing nothing but feel total pleasure. It was like a full-body orgasm times 10 that kept going on and on. When I would nod off, it felt like I was in a pure conscious lucid dream-like state. Sometimes it felt like I was leaving my body. At this point, I did the rest of it and stayed up all night and must have been high for 10 hours straight. I might have slept at one point. It's hard to tell the difference when you nod off and everything feels good regardless. Just the feeling of being under a blanket was amazing. I was blown away by the power of this drug and how orgasmic it felt. I never understood why people did drugs before and got so hooked on them. But now I see why. I have the urge to do it again, but I will resist and not do it. At least not for a long time. I understand the addiction potential and how someone could easily tear their lives apart with this stuff. Heroin is pure powdered pleasure. I actually feel proud of myself for having the balls to do something this crazy, and I feel like it was a valuable life lesson and my window into another world and part of society. I will never forget the day I did heroin. Now, ask me anything. One thing I want to preface before continuing is regardless of how exciting and positive the sounds coming from the OP, please do not feel tempted and try to experience this yourself. And if you do, even a little bit, even if it's just temptation, please get help before it is too late. I only talk about these things to inform, but I'd never ever encourage anything even remotely similar or purposefully tempt others into being curious. With that being said, let's get into some of the comments. One person says, "Yes, opioid molecules are the best on earth. It really is the greatest feeling life has to offer. Unfortunately, once I got a taste for that feeling, it was all over. Opioids are the most addictive drugs on the planet. Once your body gets addicted, the withdrawal is pure hell. Be very, very careful not to ingest this stuff every day, because in a matter of a week, you will be completely addicted." I was very surprised at how fast my tolerance went up and how fast I was craving the stuff. I'm now clean of it and take Suboxone to minimize the withdrawal. It has helped, but I can never take another opioid without my body going completely crazy for it. Enjoy it, but save it for a rainy day. Opioid addiction nearly unalived me. And the OP replies saying, "Good insightful post. Thanks." Another person says, "Not a question, just a suggestion based on knowledge gained from years as a heroin addict. Don't do it again. Ever. There is nothing so terrible in this world as heroin withdrawals. It takes doing heroin every day or every other day for about 2 to 3 months to get your first habit. But that time goes by real fast when you are high. Just leave it alone. Seriously." And the OP replies to this saying, "I'm sure the addiction sucks, I'm glad someone here has some real experience. Well, not glad for your sake, but in terms of setting things straight. With what it takes to have withdrawals, unlike the first 20 comments asking me if I was withdrawing right now. And, it just hurts to read that comment, because if you know anything about the rest of this thread, you'll see the OP right now has no idea what he's in for later on. And not surprisingly, we get an update from the OP about 2 weeks later. And the title of the post is, 2 weeks ago, I tried heroin once for fun and made an Ask Me Anything. I have been using since and shot up for the first time today. Ask me anything. Wed's night update. Effing, I'm still withdrawing, throwing up, and sweating out gallons of sweat. I really want to use and relapse right now. I know I shouldn't. These urges are so strong and overpowering. Please help me if you can, before I get the chance to. 1,000 comment update. F my life. I wish I was trolling, and this was all some elaborate lie. I was doing everything right, have been clean, and somehow, a rumor got out that I've been using, and my girlfriend found out, and she basically broke up with me last night, but is now putting that decision on hold. I have some serious unrelated business/work I need to attend to in 2 hours, and I don't know if I'll be in any state to be able to and be ready. I can't stop crying. F heroin. F my life. I guess I don't need to say that, since heroin pretty much F my life for me in under 2 weeks. I just want to pass away. NA update. Went to NA. I shared my story, and it seemed to hit a lot of people. I cried. I got a lot of support and numbers, and feel like I'm in a good place, and truly believe I never have to use again. I will be going back. Update number whatever. I slept for about 30 hours, sweat out my entire body, and now I feel okay. I also took a shit for the first time in like a week, which was pretty awesome. I can stop this on my own. I don't even think I need NA, but I'm not ruling it out. I have no craving or desire to do heroin. I'm sure some of you will be quick to say I need real support, and maybe you're right. But right now, I think I'll be okay. New update. I appreciate all the genuine concern and advice. I finished my stash. Bad idea, but too late. Threw out my needles, and I'm too faded to respond to comments for now. When I sober up in a couple hours, I'll check out some NA meetings. Edit. I nodded off after taking another hit at 4 a.m. and couldn't be bothered to look at this anymore, and just woke up sore with a headache. For those of you who think I'm a troll because I can do heroin and type well with good grammar, F off. It's not that hard if you type slowly and carefully without looking at the screen. The screen is a blur and too bright. And it's challenging, but I would rather post coherently than like an idiot. I know it's hard to believe someone dumb enough to do heroin is intelligent in other regards. Comments disintegrated into mindless bandwagon accusations of being a troll. I wanted to engage in a discussion and know I need help, and my mind isn't exactly right. I'll sift through the posts and respond to the genuine ones once I feel better. For people calling fake, is this enough proof for you? And I can't really show it on here. I'll try to show it really blurred, but it's the OP having the post on their device, and then some needles, Q-tips, Neosporin, and Band-Aids on top of the post. Do you want to see my track marks too? They are not pretty, and this is under 24 hours after first shooting up. I'm not proud of any of this, and have posted it here because I can't tell anyone in my life, and don't want to keep it to myself. I figured doing another Ask Me Anything would give me the opportunity to talk about my issues anonymously and help realize the extent of my problems through feedback. The a-holes saying this is all fake trolling can F themselves. People can post about being prostitutes and all sorts of things that harm a large number of other people, but dismiss someone on track to becoming an addict who needs help and just wants to talk, and maybe help some other people from making the same mistakes. I appreciate the people giving legitimate advice and asking questions. I'm going to the next NA meeting I can find. I know there will be a lot of people telling me, "I told you so," and urging me to seek help, and they are right. That's all good, and trust me, I know the danger I am in of ruining my life, but let's please keep this and Ask Me Anything first and foremost. I will be checking out an NA meeting this week, and I know I am on a fast track to becoming an addict, and I want to stop it before it gets out of control, and I'm physically addicted. No one in my life can know about this, and I want to stop before it is too late. I have been using for 2 to 3 day periods, then taking a couple days off, then using again. The breaks were in part to try to not get hooked, and in part because I had an unreliable dealer who charged me more than double what I should be paying. I got ripped off several times when I tried to buy off the street. My former dealer is the guy who I first bought from. Today I met a guy through internet channels who said he could get bundles, 10 small bags of heroin, for significantly less than half the price my old dealer gave me on his most fair deal. He also happened to be an IV user and had a stash of sealed needles and supplies and offered to shoot me up. I had kinda hoped I would find someone who would, and he was a pro at finding my small hidden veins and injecting a bag in one shot. To quote Trainspotting, take the best orgasm you've ever had, multiply by 1,000, and you're still nowhere near it. He gave me some new needles and tourniquets, and when I got home I tried to do it myself. After not hitting a vein countless times, I finally got a red flag and was good to go. I have injected 5 bags since 4 p.m. The last one a little less than an hour ago, and I am tempted to do one more. Ask me anything. Forgive me for any delays if I nod off. And there is this one particular back and forth that the OP and a commenter has, so I'm gonna read that one. And it goes, "Oh dear, I'm an IV morphine addict, so I know where you're coming from. In my opinion, there's no going back now. You are going to be in for one hell of a ride. So you found heroin. You know you like it. Hell, you love it. Like the chase, the catch, like the high. Opiates are like kissing God. And once you have tried them, there's no going back. If you don't clean up now, or clean up soon, within a month, this is what you can expect. After a few days of continuous use, you will become physically dependent. The withdrawals from opiates are like the high, but turned inside out. Imagine how much pleasure you will get when you push the plunger all the way down, and you feel the smack hit your brain, and you just melt. Now turn it inside out. You can expect to be pissing out of your ass, freezing cold, yawning nonstop, drippy nose, muscles and bones feel like they're breaking and spontaneously combusting, no sleep, severe depression, and ideas of offing yourself. The list goes on. Second, be prepared to lose everything that you have. You will lose your job, your family, your friends, your possessions, your apartment, everything. The longer you keep going, the more you lose. Eventually, once you've lost all your possessions in the physical realm, then the smack will take your soul with it. You will be a cardboard cutout of your former self. This is exactly how I felt in the depths of using. The lights were on, but nobody was home. Just an empty shell full of smack. There is a very likely chance that you will pass away. There is a very likely chance that you will end up in prison. There is a very likely chance that you will end up in the hospital. You will continue to be ripped off to no end. There are no friendly or honest dealers. You will go places you thought you would never go. So buckle up, enjoy the ride. You are now a junkie. Welcome to my life. Here's what helped me. Go to NA. I am an atheist, and I go to NA. Keep an open mind and listen to what people have to say. These are likely the only people who will truly understand you and be able to help you. Don't hang out with any other drug users. This seems really obvious, but I have disobeyed this rule time and time again, and ended up relapsing each time, and each time coming closer and closer to passing away. Think about the need to go into a substitution program. If you find yourself using for a period longer than 6 months, methadone or Suboxone may be the best solution to help you resume a normal life and keep that monkey off your back. I have been on Suboxone for 1.5 years. It works, if you take it. Feel free to message me if you want to vent or ask questions. I know where you are. I know where you're going. I remember the first time someone shot me up. I didn't think it was possible to even feel that good. And for Pete's sake, if you're using IV, just do it safely. See this, and try to find out if there is a syringe exchange program in your city. And the 2 links the commenter provides are 2 websites that don't work anymore. There, you should be able to get all the supplies you need for free and anonymously. We have a super excellent program where I live. They will even drive to come meet you. Feel free to write me for any advice or just to talk. Good luck, and welcome to the club. And the OP replies to this saying, I just logged back into this account, and I can't believe that was 4 months ago. It seems like years. I am very lucky to have a supporting family, but it definitely strained all my relationships and threw my life way off course. I was using and fully addicted for about a month when I went on Suboxone and got cleaned up. That went well for 2 to 3 months. Then I started effing around with my Suboxone dosage and was trying to get my tolerance low so I could get high from it. 2 milligrams or less per day, down from 16 to 24. I was IVing my Suboxone daily, discovered the needle exchanges, and got pretty obsessed with the act of IV use in itself. And after being on low doses of IV Suboxone looking for a high and tasting it again, it was bound to happen. I relapsed and had an odd 6 to 8 weeks of switching back and forth between heroin and buprenorphine, often very rapidly doing tiny gradual doses of Suboxone every 10 minutes, hours after a several-day dope binge. That avoided the precipitated withdrawals associated with going on bupe too soon after using opiates, and I found a way to do it without being in withdrawal at all. I went for a week or so sober maybe during that period. It was usually 3 to 4 days of heroin, hydromorphone, and or fentanyl IV, then 3 to 4 days of getting back on Suboxone and feeling depressed and shitty with minor withdrawal symptoms, just sweats, depression, and loss of energy, then starting the process all over again. It was too easy to cheat because I would use all the opiates I wanted, then get right back on Suboxone without experiencing any major discomfort. Last week I stopped and got back on a high bup dosage of 24 milligrams a day. I'm pretty confident I'm done with dope. I'm lucky I didn't F myself over completely with that relapse, and I needed to stop before I really did some serious damage to my life. I'm lucky I only lost cash, some trust, and time. I don't want to think about how much I spent, but too much. Maybe a couple grand. I just know it could have been much worse. I'm lucky to be alive. I was IVing a lot of fentanyl, and that shit is playing with fire. I would extract 5 milligrams from a patch and prep a measured solution that I could IV. I got up to IVing 1 milligram at a time, up to 15 milligrams in a several-hour period, sometimes combined with a bundle or two of high-quality diacetylmorphine HCl on some occasions. And people have OD'd and passed away from much less. I would do it alone, and I would have a shot of Narcan ready to inject into my thigh if I felt I was on the verge of ODing, which luckily never happened. I also had powdered Suboxone and tablets at easy access to also stop a potential OD. Buprenorphine is a good thing for people to keep around who don't have naloxone. It works, and will throw someone out of an OD and into precipitated WD pretty quick. You're definitely right that Suboxone works when you take it, and I learned the hard way why they prescribe overly high doses. It is definitely for my own good to take more than I need and not get cravings or even be able to get high for several days if I was determined to. So on to this next chapter with my life and dealing with addiction. I hope I will never touch any opiate or opioid again other than buprenorphine for maintenance. And the original commenter replies saying, "Aw man, I really hate to say this, but I told you so. I understand though. Before I got into using opiates, I had a few friends who had run their course with them as well. Of course that didn't stop me from using. If anything, it just piqued my curiosity even more. I'm really not sure how you didn't pass away from using that much fentanyl. That shit kills people every day. You are super lucky. It's really smart that you had a shot of Narcan ready to go just in case. For over the past 2 years, there's been a notice in the community center where I received drug counseling. The notice is about heroin being mixed with fentanyl, and people are passing away from small amounts mixed in with their dope. So it's a miracle that you didn't kick the bucket from those huge mega doses that you were using. I'm super glad that you're on a regular dosage of Suboxone. I have my Suboxone under my tongue as I'm writing this. Whatever you do, don't F with your medication anymore. You probably know that, having learned it the hard way already. And you might very well think that you're done with dope, but you'll never be done with dope. Never. It's always going to be there like a little ghost in the back of your mind. Suboxone helps. I don't know what I would have done without it. Right now, I'm in the process of tapering down. I'm at 6 milligrams daily, going to 4 milligrams in a few days. I'm not looking forward to it, but I've been on it for about 2 years now. Been sober for over 1 year. And I think it's time to get my brain back to cruising altitude. How did you manage to keep working during your escapades? I always managed to keep up with my jobs when I was using. School was a lot harder to keep up with back in the day. Suboxone sometimes causes me to miss a day of work, once in a while. But that's because I metabolize it super quick for someone my size. In any case, I'm really glad to hear that you're getting back on track. You are very lucky to have a supportive family, and that you had the courage to tell them what's going on in the first place. Hopefully, your arms will heal up as mine have. I've actually got a tattoo of the word love covering my favorite vein on my right arm. Just a little something to remind me where I should really be spending my time. What would we do without Suboxone, huh? Right now, you've just got to keep taking your regular dosage every day. If you could do that without self-sabotage for a few months, you'll be well on your way. Every day that I go without using down, I forget about it a little more. I think about it a little bit less. It's been well over a year since my last binge, and I'm very happy, living a relatively quiet life for a 20-year-old. If you can, find something to bide your time. Get into some low-impact hobby. And if your doctor isn't already doing so, then get your liver enzymes checked, as well as getting checked for hepatitis C and HIV. Welcome back to the land of the living, my friend. And the OP replies saying, "Yeah, I'm lucky I didn't pass away. I know. I was very careful when I first did it, dosing small amounts, and was scared shitless about ODing. So I had a friend there to jab me with Narcan just in case. I worked up a tolerance and got used to it. It's hard to say what a huge amount is. I used at most 15 milligrams in a day, which is a relatively huge amount. I think a lot of the scare about it is the heroin mixed with street, non-pharmaceutical synthesized, fentanyl powder, and if a normal bag has 100 milligrams of dope, and maybe 20% of it or more is fent, then they are getting way more than I ever did all at once without realizing it. And that will sure as hell make someone OD, even with a huge tolerance. Then again, plenty have OD'd from smoking under the older gel patches, getting 1 to 10 milligrams at once. I guess I was careful, and always slow and gradual with it, checking my response. Anyway, yeah, I know heroin will never be out of my life completely, and I'll need to be on bute maintenance for a while, and probably go to some groups, or do something more than I was in terms of recovery. It's amazing how much clearer my head is now compared to any time in the past couple months. I just advise you to be careful when tapering down. Buprenorphine is a strange drug, and at low doses, 4 milligrams and under, once your tolerance drops, the agonist properties really kick in there, and many people report getting nodding off high once they are at 2 milligrams and under doses for a little while. That's where I got into trouble, since I tapered on my own in part, because I wanted to get this effect while getting off. But once you taste that opiated feeling again, you can get into trouble. You seem pretty strong in your recovery. It's just something to prepare for, since it could happen again. My arms are healing pretty quickly, which I'm glad about. I never did too much damage, since I was extremely careful and sterile. Never reused needles, and would use a new rig if it even touched the mixing cap accidentally, since I didn't want to stick any needle potentially hooked or slightly damaged into my arm. As for work, I was only working part-time during this, so it was easy to get around. If I was in school or working full-time, there would be no way I could have pulled off what I did. Now it's time to focus on relationships and rebuilding some other parts of my life. And then, we get a terrible update from the OP. He uploads another Ask Me Anything, but the title is Ask Me Anything Patient in a Psychiatric Hospital. I was also technically passed away last week. Ask me anything. I am in one of the nation's finest hospitals and get internet access in 30-minute intervals before having to restart my browsing session, which is kind of annoying, along with a pesky web filter. I will be very grateful if anyone can help me get around it. All proxies I have tried are blocked. If you are reading this and know me, you probably already know who I am. Ask me anything. One person asked about the OP saying, I was also technically passed away last week. And they say, explain this. And the OP says, I overdosed on a combination of mostly fentanyl, plus I had a lot of, I'm not even going to try pronouncing all that, and maybe some lingering oxymorphone in my system. I stopped breathing with several fentanyl patches in my mouth. They were previously used, and I thought they had much less left in them, partially blocking my airway, and would have been unalived if I was found 10 minutes later, according to EMS. It took multiple shots of Narcan to revive me. Someone else asks, seriously, how does it make you feel? Are you depressed to be there? Relieved? Indifferent? And the OP says, I am kind of indifferent about being here. After what happened, I understand why they put me here. It's kind of relaxing, although I find the treatment, other than the giving me a break part, slow and unhelpful. This hospital and unit is like a mini resort. I have my own room and bathroom that is like a nice dorm room with TV. Plus we can order massages, etc. One last question. Someone asks, do you think you will stay clean this time? And the OP says, no. I expect to relapse several times, honestly. It's a hell of an addiction. That doesn't mean I won't try my best, but I'm prepared for the reality of setbacks. No more fentanyl, though. A week before this incident, I had a near OD with fent as well, but I snapped out of it. When I relapse, it will be IV hydromorphone and oxymorphone, my drugs of choice. Heroin is too expensive and inconsistent, and honestly, I got the best high from hydromorphone when I had low tolerance. We get another update post from the OP saying, ask me anything heroin/opioid/multi-substance addict with bipolar disorder headed to rehab tomorrow because I didn't listen to Reddit. I OD'd 1 week ago and I'm in a psych hospital. Ask me anything. New Ask Me Anything. Tomorrow, I leave the psychiatric unit to go to a substance abuse unit for a couple weeks before heading to a long-term residential rehab program. I was technically unalived from a fentanyl overdose last week and was revived with multiple shots of Narcan. If I was found 10 minutes later, I would have been passed away for good, according to EMS. Reddit warned me I would become an addict when I didn't ask me anything a little over a year ago after first trying heroin. Needless to say, I didn't listen, and I'm paying the consequences. Whether or not it would have made a difference is questionable considering my personality. A staggering number of bipolar people become addicts. This is my third extremely close encounter with death from drugs in the last year. I have done more than you probably know exist. This is my third chance at life, and I don't know if I will get any more. Ask me anything. And I will be skipping over this one just due to already going over a lot of Q&As, as well as we don't really learn that much from the OP in this thread. But if you do want to check it out, you can go check out his Reddit page, and he does do a lot of Q&As in response to the majority of them, and his account is Spontaneous H. But our next update comes 7 whole years later, and is titled, Spontaneous H, 7 years later. Update for anyone who stumbles upon this account in the future. I don't know if anyone here remembers me, but you can look through my submissions history and get an idea. It's not pretty, and will take you through a journey of my first time trying heroin to my life quickly falling apart. So take that as a warning. It's graphic. I was totally out of my mind. And you may not want to read it, depending on where you're at. This is the first time I've logged into this account in a couple years, and I had a bunch of PMs. And people occasionally mention this account in various places on Reddit, so I'll post a quick update here for anyone who stumbles upon this in the future. I am now almost 6 years clean from all drugs and alcohol, and life is good. It's too difficult for me to go back and even read most of what I originally wrote 7 years ago. Maybe one day, I will be able to. I don't even remember what I said in the first post, but I know I can look back objectively and say that things probably weren't as good and normal before I tried heroin that time as I made it seem in that first post. There were certainly warning signs before that, with alcohol, weed, and other things that I had issues with substances, although I probably couldn't admit it to myself at the time. I would have never tried it if things were truly going well for me. What followed in the later posts, with where it took me, was very real. Thanks for everyone who has reached out over the years. I hope everyone here is able to find recovery and get the help they need. And we get our last and final update about 5 whole years later. And the OP says, "This is not an Ask Me Anything or anything exciting really. I saw a disturbing and sad post about an opiate OD on r/public freakout and was reminded to try to log in and check this. I guess it has been over 3 years since I have checked this or posted anything. I find this Reddit account pretty overwhelming. I'm just posting to let people know that I am still alive, clean, and doing well. Thanks to everyone who has reached out in messages checking in over the past few years. And sorry if I can't get back to you. And I'm just glad the entire saga ended on such a positive note. It's very rare to hear of people who went through similar situations as the OP and had the same result. Like stated before, people have passed away who were on higher dosages at a time than OP, and miraculously, he still made it. Please make sure to check in on anyone who could be in similar situations as this, and especially, of course, if it's similar to your own. And for our next one, I am going to be talking about the lamp thread. We actually start from an r/ask Reddit post asking the following. Have you ever felt a deep personal connection to a person you met in a dream, only to wake up feeling terrible because you realized they never existed? And this is how the infamous comment goes. Throwaway account, because this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college, I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note, he was 325 pounds, and I was 120 pounds. While unconscious on the ground, I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady. She made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years, we got married, and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job, and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, she, my wife, bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day, while sitting on the couch, I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D, but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs, and a white square shade. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating. I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first. Soon I stopped that too, as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the effing lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come by and try to talk to me. By this time, my cognizance was breaking up and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp is not real. The house is not real. My wife, my kids, none of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not effing real. The lamp starts to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted dimensions. It took up my entire perspective, and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises, and I became aware of pain. An effing shit ton of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back, on the sidewalk, surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point, a cop scooped me up, dragged/walked me across the sidewalk and grass, and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. Seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive and give CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane, as I would cry myself to sleep, hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have. But sometimes, I see my son. Usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says. While it's a short post, it is definitely one of the most impactful ones on Reddit, and many people still reference it to this day. And our next one's going to be the "I have built my life and career on lies and fraud" thread. But we first start with the post that the OP had posted a year prior to this incident, titled, "I have received a full scholarship from a US university, but I can't afford the visa and flight cost. I have passed my class, 12th this year, and have received full scholarship from a US university for my undergrad. Tuition, housing, food, health insurance, and even textbooks is covered in my scholarship/financial aid package. The only thing I have to pay for is the flights and visa, but even that is a major financial challenge for my family. The visa will cost around $40,000, and a one-way flight from India to US will cost around 1 lakh. That's a significant amount for my family. I have already asked my university for help, but they said their financial aid policy doesn't cover visa and transportation costs, so they can't help me in this. I was wondering if anyone knows any organization or NGO which can help me in this, or what should I do? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thank you." And we get our main post 9 months later. And of course it's titled, "I have built my life and career on lies and fraud. And this is how it goes. Read only if you have the time. It's very long, but worth it. So, it all started when our 10th board exams got canceled. From that day till now, I haven't seriously studied for even 2 hours. As usual, I took science in 11th, dreaming of cracking JEE, which stands for the Joint Entrance Examination. And all, but soon realized it wasn't a piece of cake. I barely passed 11th with 49%. Then, in 12th, I thought I would restart everything and took admission in a dummy school. I might have studied seriously for like 2 to 3 days, but then again, I started repeating the same things. There was a time in my life where I was just eating, sleeping, and watching movies. I used to watch horror movies all night long for months, then sleep the whole day. And my parents thought I was studying the whole night. But soon, I realized it's time, and I need to do something to get into a good college. I again tried studying, but it was not like I didn't want to study. I wanted to, but was not able to understand anything in physics, chemistry even, after trying very hard. I was able to understand maths a little, but that wasn't enough. Okay, so now the real part comes. I soon realized I wouldn't be able to get even a 50 percentile in JEE. So then I started looking for colleges abroad and their admission process, fees, everything I was able to find online. Then I found out only in the US, some top colleges provide full financial aid to even international students. Financial aid is a type of scholarship, but based on family's income. But you need to be like very, very good to get those kinds of things. Like you should have perfect academic scores, perfect extracurriculars, everything, but I didn't have any of those things. I checked these things in like June, July of my 12th class. And the US university's admissions applications start from 1st August and have a deadline of 1st January for regular decisions and 1st November for early decisions. So, I planned a very, very structured fraud plan. They need your 9 to 11 class result and a predicted result of 12th. I got my result for 9 through 11 class and edited them like in a very perfect way. Anyone would not recognize as if it was edited. Then made a completely fake predicted result for my 12th class and even bought a fake stamp and seal of my school's principal to make it look perfect. Then, as all these transcripts needed to be sent by my school's official email ID, but my school only had a gmail.com email, which, despite being official, looked fake. So, I made a fake email ID of my school, not any regular email like schoolname@gmail.com. I bought a similar website domain of my school and got the email like if it was from the principal, then principal@schoolname.com. So it looked exactly official. Then I started preparing my application. They need your academic achievements in high school and outside of academic achievements. I made a complete full fake profile of me, and I didn't mention any of the activities, like won an Olympiad medal or anything I put on, which cannot be verified, but are still impressive. And even if they wanted to verify something, they would send an email to my school, of which I had access to. Then I needed to write some essays, like almost every college have a prompt. Why you want to come here, what our college offers, which other colleges don't. So I used ChatGPT, and I know people who have experience in applying abroad, and will say ChatGPT writes very bad essays. But what I did was first, looked on some successful and good past essays, and then gave them to ChatGPT and said to craft a similar impressive essay for the prompt. So I got some decent essays to submit. Okay, so I did this and then applied to a bunch of early and regular applications. I applied to almost every single US college which promised to meet the need of every admitted student, which means they would give you a scholarship for the cost you couldn't pay. Like a typical US college costs around 60 to 70 lakhs per year, including tuition, housing, everything. And let's say if someone could only afford about 30 lakhs per year, so they would give a scholarship or financial aid for that remaining amount. It works like that. And I applied saying I cannot contribute anything to my college education, like not even a single penny. But they need like your parents' income proof and all that before they finalize your decisions. But say your father or mother earns 20 lakhs per year, which is around 24,000 US dollars. But it is nothing in America, because how can someone who earns 20 lakhs a year and spend 60 lakhs a year on college? So for most of the top colleges, if your parents' income is not more than say like 3 to 4 CR, you will likely get full financial aid, because even if someone earns 1 CR a year, cannot spend 60 to 70 lakhs alone on college. And most of the US colleges are need blind for US citizens, which means their ability to pay doesn't affect their admissions decisions. But for non-US citizens, except maybe 4 to 5 Ivy League colleges, all the other colleges are need aware, which means the student's ability to pay now affects their admissions decisions. It doesn't affect greatly if it's a top school, but still do to an extent. So I applied and got a bunch of rejections, waitlisted, deferred, and even some acceptances in the early round, but the acceptances weren't fulfilling my full need. Like some were giving full scholarships for tuition, but I still had to pay around 15 to 20K lakhs a year for housing, food, and everything. Okay, so I got these decisions around mid and end of December. Until now, I hadn't studied even a bit of 12th grade, even for boards, JEE alone. And the boards were scheduled to start from mid-February, I guess. And all of the regular decisions applications I applied were supposed to be released in mid to end of March. I started studying just to pass. But during boards, I realized how messed up I was, except for physical education and English. I thought I would not pass in any of the subjects. In my physics exam, I wrote answers like, I remember there was a question, like how are X-rays produced? I wrote X-rays are produced by X-ray machines. In maths, all I wrote was given in the questions to find or to prove, and basically rewrote the questions. I wrote for like 10 to 15 marks out of 80 in almost all subjects except English and physical education. Okay, so now back to the story. The decisions came, and as expected, I got rejected from every Ivy League. Maybe they found out I am fake or something. I don't know what, but one college, I wouldn't name for obvious reasons, is a top 25 in the US and a reputed college. I don't know how they accepted, but they gave me a very, very good financial aid package, which covered almost everything except my meal plan cost. It was like 5K USD a year, which is about 4 to 5 lakhs a year. I knew we could afford this, but I thought, if still my dad would pay for my college, I would still have to listen to everything he tells me, like basically be answerable to everything I do, till he is paying for my college. I know this is wrong, but at that time, I just wanted freedom at any cost. And if I could go to college without even spending a penny of my parents' money, only then I could get that. So, I planned another very wrong and fraud thing. I created a completely fake death certificate of my father. I know you were all like, what? But I did, and sent that to my college. saying my dad got cancer and is unalived. So my mother would receive his pension, my dad has a government job, and that would be almost half of his actual income. So I won't be able to pay for these 5K also. And they took that very seriously and instantly increased my aid package to over full cost of attendance, which means tuition, housing, meals, and even one round-trip ticket to India every year. So there was a last thing remaining, which was sending them my 12th final result that I graduated my high school and with a good grade. And I was worried that I might not even pass 12th. This was the only barrier now. I got my result, I scored 58%, and that was more than enough for me. As soon as I got the result, I first edited the result page to 91% to show it to my parents, and for which they were really happy, and I was feeling guilty. And then got the copy from DigiLocker, edited that, made that 91%, and sent it to the college from the school's official email, which I created. They quickly accepted it and made my admission official, and everything was in place now. Now, when I told this to everyone was surprised. Like, how can I get into a college in the US with full scholarship? My dad and mom's friends started coming over to my house to congratulate me and then seek advice for their kids. How can they too get that? All those things. And only I knew how I did this. And when at first I told this to my dad, his first reaction was like, I don't know how to pronounce that, but the translation says, you don't even know plus minus. How did this happen? And some people also thought it might be a scam and all, but later realized it is all legit. Okay, so now back to the story. Now I had to get a US visa. And that stuff is like not too hard, but still, even if they suspect anything wrong with you, like fake academic things or anything suspicious, they would instantly reject your visa application. There's a 2 to 3 minute short interview with the foreigner in the US embassy or consulate, where they verify you are a legit person and you have sufficient funds to survive in the US, and that if you speak English properly. So, at the time of my interview, I saw a girl get rejected right in front of me, and I was next. I don't know why they rejected her. She was speaking fine, answering everything which they asked properly, but still. And I got very nervous at my turn. They first asked why this university and all. I said something unique about the uni, and then said they also gave me a full ride, which means full scholarship. As soon as she saw that on my 120, it's a doc for the visa, she said, "Oh, that's good," smiled, and said congrats, and said, "You must be very smart." Only I knew how smart I was, and instantly typed something on the computer, and said your visa is approved, and didn't even ask any further questions. Okay, so for my boards, I was curious to know how I even passed. So I ordered the photocopies of my graded answer sheets from the CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education, website, and when I received my answer sheets, I was literally shocked. I got like 10 to 15 marks in all of the subjects, except for English and PE. It was written on the front of the answer sheet like 13 for maths, 15 for physics, 11 for chem, but on the result portal, they passed me by giving me 29 to 30 in every subject and an extra 20 with practical. So I got like 45 to 50 in every subject. So if someone who is giving boards right now remembers this, CBSE tries to pass you in every way possible. The only way you can fail is if you haven't written anything on the answer sheet. So I came here in the US in August 2023 without spending a penny. The college paid for my flight, and they had sent a bus to the airport to pick up all the international students arriving on that day. So, I came here. The orientation and everything happened. I got to know a few students from India who were like on full tuition scholarships, and also some from other countries. And they are all like geniuses. They have done research in some fields, some are international Olympiad winners, and all that. And I am a fraud. So, the classes started, and here we have 2 midterms and 1 final. And the midterm is like every month. So first, I tried studying. I thought, let's just forget everything in the past and start a fresh good life here. But then again, I don't know. I was just not interested in studying anymore. My habit or what? I don't know what. Exams came, and I needed to get a 3 out of 4 GPA. Here we have a 4 GPA scale. Every semester to continue my financial aid or scholarship to get to the next semester. I got very tensed. Then, I again made a plan. In the exam hall, there are like at least 100 people at a time. What I did, I didn't take my bag or anything in the exam hall, and it's not like school-like we have to leave our bags outside. You can take anything, also have the phone. But the phone, or any electronic device, cannot be seen on the desk. If they see, then it's game over for you. They take these things like very, very seriously of academic integrity, and honestly, even more than Indian colleges. So cheating here is easy, but if you get caught, it's over. So, I thought as soon as I will get the exam paper, and here we don't have the answer sheets, we write on the exam paper itself, like we used to do in lower classes. So, I sat near the exit, and as soon as I got the paper and saw the invigilator was facing the other side, I left the room with my exam paper in my jacket and wrote all the answers using the internet. And at the end time, there used to be a crowd as people were going in and out and submitting the exams. So I came then mixed with the crowd and submitted it. I did all of the exams like this and got near to perfect marks in all and got a 4 out of 4 GPA last semester. And then we had winter break of about a month in December. Came back to India for a month, came again here in January ending for second semester, and again started doing the same things, going to parties, drinking, and all. First midterm happened recently. I did the same thing and got perfect marks. Also, I am getting everything for free, but still needed some money to buy some things or do anything. And here, I cannot do a part-time job in McDonald's or any local store as an international student. You can do it with the cash, but it's risky. If you get caught, you will be deported. And even if my parents send me some money, they can send like 10K max, which is like nothing here. So, then I again made a plan. You can do internships and earn money. There are no restrictions on that. I made a complete fake resume, edited my transcript to look like a third-year marketing student. I didn't do a CS or any engineering student, because then for internships, there are technical interviews and all. So I did the marketing one, which have normal interviews, not too hard, and applied to over 100 to 150 companies. Got interviews invite, and I prepared answers for every experience I listed on the resume. By-hearted them, by-hearted all the common review answers, and got a marketing intern position at a small insurance firm based in New York. It's remote work. All I have to do is send some emails and sometimes make some phone calls. It's part-time. I do it like 2 to 3 hours a day, and most of the time, I just clock in and watch movies or do anything unless there is something assigned to me, and I make around 1,500 a month from it, like 1.2 lakhs in INR, and it's more than enough for me here. I just spend it on getting drinks, getting some new electronics every month, and stuff like that. I know I should be investing in stuff, but I just don't like to do anything in which there's my brain involved, unless it's fraud. So, I don't know what I am doing is wrong or right. It's basically wrong morally, I know, but I haven't had a single problem till now. But still, I am scared something very bad would happen in my life very soon if I keep on doing these things. And our next update doesn't come from Reddit, but rather from a news article. The headline of it is, Indian student faked father's passing for full scholarship to US. A Reddit post gave him away. I have built my life and career on lies, Aryan Anand wrote in a Reddit post that led to his deportation from the US. An Indian student who faked his father's passing to get a full scholarship to an elite US university will be deported from the country. Aryan Anand, 19, has been charged with fabricating admission and financial aid documents to attend Lehigh University in Pennsylvania, according to Lehigh Valley News. An anonymous Reddit confession by Anand led to the unraveling of his web of lies. Built my life on lies. According to ABC News, Anand forged transcripts, financial statements, and even his father's passing certificate to get a full ride to Lehigh. He confessed all of this in a Reddit post titled, "I have built my life and career on lies." In this post, the 19-year-old explained how his entire application was made up so he could get into an American college. "I haven't told anyone how I got to the point where I am right now. It would destroy everything I have," he wrote, before explaining, at length, how he scammed the system. Besides falsifying documents and his father's passing certificate, Anand also created a fake email address to pose as his school principal. Although he did not name himself or the university, a Reddit moderator noticed his post, did some digging, and figured out that Anand was a student at Lehigh. The defendant only had one other university that he followed, which was Lehigh University. So the moderator actually reached out to Lehigh to give them a heads up, said Northampton County Assistant DA Michael Wainertz. The moderator alerted the university and passed on all the evidence he had. Anand was arrested 2 months ago and pleaded guilty to forgery on June 12, 2024. His admission to Lehigh has been revoked. Although he could have been sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison for his crime, the 19-year-old will only face expulsion and deportation back to India, thanks to a plea deal with the university. I also saw a pretty sad comment coming from a different post talking about the whole situation. The comment says, "Wow, this guy scammed me 5,000 INR. He reached out on Reddit asking for help to support his travel to Lehigh University. I checked his I-20 document and transferred the money back in June 2023. He was communicating from his university email address as well." And to regard the part of the article that said that a Reddit mod reported Anand, here are the screenshots of the mod going back and forth with a Lehigh police lieutenant. You can pause to read the emails, and then here is a screenshot of them being in a Zoom meeting together. And last but not least, I couldn't make an infamous Reddit threads video without including the carbon monoxide thread that everybody seems to reference anytime possible. The post originally starts when an OP posts on r/legal advice. And the post is called Post-it Notes Left in Apartment. On the 15th of April, I found a yellow post-it note in a handwriting that wasn't mine on my desk, reminding me of some errands I had to do, but told literally nobody about. While odd, I chalked it up to something I did in my sleep, thinking maybe in my half-awake state, I scrawled it so it didn't appear to be my handwriting. I threw it out and thought little of it. On the 19th, I found another post-it note on the back of my desk chair, in the same handwriting as the previous note, telling me to make sure I saved my documents. I was freaked out, but there were no other signs of a break-in, so I set up a webcam in my house, aimed at my desk, and used a security cam app for it to record after detecting movement. On the 28th, I woke up to find another post-it note. This one saying, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you, but it's important we do." I immediately checked the webcam's folder on my computer and found nothing from the night before, but my computer's recycling bin had been emptied, which I am certain I did not do recently, indicating someone had noticed the webcam and deleted the files. They were just saved straight to a folder on my desktop named webcam. Today, on the 1st of May, I found another post-it note, this time on the outside of my door, with nothing written on it, and there also appeared to be post-its on many other doors in my apartment complex, all blank, in varying colors. Do I have any legal recourse here? I have no proof, except for the post-its, but those are written by my pen and on my post-it notes, so conceivably, I could have faked them. Would contacting the police get me into any trouble? If they can't determine an outside source for this. I just want to make sure I'm not wasting anyone's time. Should I consult my landlord? Those also living in the complex? And then the OP makes a quick edit saying, "I pulled up a letter I received from my landlord back when I moved in, and the handwriting is identical. Could this count as evidence?" And before we get into the famous comment, let's see some of the other ideas people came up with as to explain how this could have happened, or in general, some advice for the OP. This commenter says, have an old smartphone and a Wi-Fi connection, set up a drop cam that is saving to the cloud and not to local storage. A quick Google search should point you in the right direction. As others have said, you sound both sincere and way too calm about this. A check-in with a mental health provider is probably not a bad idea. Same with checking in with your neighbors. Also, out of sheer curiosity, why are the dimensions of your room so strange? And what is up with the whole bed looking like it was built in the room? Do the dimensions for all the spaces you know about add up? No odd voids? And at the end, the commenter is referencing a couple posts the OP made before this incident, with questions about his bedroom. Another commenter says, so the handwriting is identical, and the landlord wrote that the landlord doesn't want to let the landlord talk to you? You are probably sleepwalking. Also, I think you are making this up, because you are not providing enough detail. Are they showing up after you wake up? So they were there at night? Did you find the post-its coming home? Did you find the one behind your desk by chance? Or noticeably the same day? One more comment says, seeing a doctor should be your priority for 2 reasons. You could be having a serious mental or neurological problem. And even if you're not, that will probably be the police's first thought. If you have a general practitioner, make an appointment ASAP. They'll be able to get the ball rolling and make appropriate referrals. Bring in the notes and the sample of your landlord's handwriting so your doctor can look at them. And now, here's the famous comment that saved the OP's life. By u/Kakerlak, they say, "You seem sincere and doesn't appear to be the plot of a Ray Bradbury short story. It's possible that your landlord is leaving notes inside your apartment, but they don't make any sense in the context you're describing him. It's likely that you are writing the notes yourself, but you are forgetting. Do you use post-it notes as reminders in any other parts of your life or job? Yes, this might be a mental health issue. You might be experiencing some sort of dissociative disorder. Or it might be a physical problem. You mentioned that you have a very unusual narrow bedroom with no windows. Is there a chance that you are not getting enough ventilation when you sleep? Or that there is a carbon monoxide leak in the building? A cheap CO detector, which you should have anyway, is a fast way to find out. You'll also have really bad headaches. You know your own medical and mental history and your other experiences. If you think these incidents might be you, writing notes to yourself, there is no shame in getting somebody qualified to give you an opinion." And the OP replies to this saying, "I have had really bad headaches, and I actually already do have a CO detector. Guess I should probably take that out of its box and plug it in." And then the OP makes an update post. It's really brief, but it just says, "Thanks to everyone who sent suggestions and gave advice on how to proceed, especially to those who recommended a CO detector. Because when I plugged one in the bedroom, it read at 100 ppm. TLDR, I had CO poisoning and thought my landlord was stalking me." And I did want to point out this one comment that says, "Sounds like you owe u/Kakerlak big time. He may have just saved your life. Glad you figured it out." Another commenter says, "Whoa, this is not at all where I was expecting this story to go. So you wrote yourself a bunch of post-it notes and forgot them because of CO poisoning?" And the OP replies saying, "Apparently, I also set up a webcam by placing it on a shelf, downloading a camera app to my phone, and making a folder on my desktop called webcam, and made an iPhoto library in the folder." And under the same comment thread, another commenter says, in his previous post, there's an update that said the post-it note handwriting matched previous correspondence with his landlord. So I'm still confused if the landlord was in his apartment still, or if OP wrote the notes himself. Or was he poisoning himself and the landlord was still in the apartment? And the OP replies to this too, saying, "Hi. So on further inspection, the handwriting really doesn't match up. However, both documents were on the same desk as several printed typed documents. And next to the typed documents, the handwriting seems so similar. Also, It wasn't even a letter from my landlord. It was a letter from my mom. And then someone replies to that saying, "Holy shit." Honest question, does it scare you how delirious you were? Because just reading this is terrifying and makes me want to check the CO levels in my apartment. And the OP replies to this saying, "Absolutely." Part of the delirium was the removal of fear. Though, at the time, I wasn't scared when my co-meter read so high. All I thought was, oh, that's probably bad. I've probably been doing this to myself this whole time. And it didn't shock me. It was a slight relief, but mostly a sort of numbness. And then I thought back to how calm I'd been, even when I believed my apartment was repeatedly broken into. If I was told, no, you can't take any legal action against your landlord, I would have thought, oh, that's a shame. Guess I'm just going to need to deal with post-it notes appearing. It wasn't until a full night out that I really realized the predicament. Sitting up at around 10 a.m. the next day, I suddenly felt shivers down my spine as I realized just what I had been feeling. Or rather, hadn't been feeling. The passiveness is the scariest element to it, I think. One last comment says, seriously? You had significant, low-level CO poisoning to the point where you have a memory impairment? You need to see a neurologist as soon as possible. There's a very real possibility that you need neuropsych testing and neurocognitive rehab. The OP responds to this saying, "Hello. I am writing to you from the hospital. Thanks for the concern. Having not slept the night there, I actually feel tremendously better today. But yes, I am absolutely taking every precaution." And the OP gives us an update on a completely different post under a reply to a comment, and the comment was someone referencing his situation. And he replies to this saying, "Good news update. It's been almost a year now. While 4 months ago, things were rough, I've definitely made significant improvement. And there's currently little reason to doubt a full recovery within a year. As it turns out, brains can heal. While brain cells cannot regenerate, the bulk of my issues seem to be from cerebral edema, brain swelling, caused by the poisoning. While the inflamed tissue can suffocate and destroy brain cells, it doesn't always. And sometimes the damage is temporary. That said, it is my understanding that without a pre-incident scan, it is difficult to tell what is swelling and what isn't, in a very detailed or specific way. Long story short, while my comment from months ago was very depressed and hopeless, I am much better in both mood and physical health. Though in this situation, those aren't exactly separate categories. I'd say now, 10 months later, I'm about 80% back to normal. And while it is likely there is a 1% chance that won't recover, and some cells were destroyed, not just disrupted, and maybe I'll always have the occasional headache, there is no reason to think I won't be at 99 to 100% better in another 6 months. So I'm happy. I've been getting a lot of PMs regarding my legal situation, and I've been advised not to discuss it online just yet, as it is still ongoing. Movies always made me think that body healing in court cases were so much faster than they really are. These things can take many months or years. Luckily, my case shouldn't take years, but it might be some more months. I can say that, legally speaking, things are really looking great for me, And in the meantime, I've had a really lovely place to stay, a very understanding boyfriend, and I've even been making art, a field I wanted to get into, but never would, if not for the incident. Wow, that's pretty wholesome. I will say though, I use a Moleskine notebook daily planner thing now. I do keep busy, important for mental health. I'm kinda done with post-it notes for a while. And I thank you all for making it to the end of yet another video. I'd like to apologize for taking forever to release, but I did want to do my first ever 2-hour-long video. So obviously, of course, it took, double the time to make than a normal 1-hour video. Again, I appreciate everyone who watches and continues to watch every single release. And I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.